Hello. That's your 1 minute and 20 seconds of wave sounds just to get you in the mood for a nice little voyage where we're going to maybe get out there on them waves and we're going to find out some facts about whales. Andy, there's a lot to learn about in this world and in this book, which is part of this world. What else can we expect to learn today?
Well, I think we're going to be covering some stuff to do with possible ghosts in Moby Dick. We've had hints of them before, but I
So
think
many
this might
ghosts
be...
in this book.
Yeah, it's quite a haunted book. A haunting and haunted, I would say.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds very poignant, which is a word that I intend to learn the meaning of right now.
Just don't ask me to spell it.
I can spell it. It's poignant.
Poignant.
Poignant. Wow, now that's a poignant thing to say.
Yeah, that's like the last words you utter before Robert De Niro beats you to death with a baseball bat. It's that word.
It's a pretty poignant thing. Sorry for any Americans out there. I don't mean to make fun of all of you, just ones who talk like that. It is quite funny.
I wasn't referencing a Robert De Niro movie either. I just mean he's a bit of a stickler for pronunciation.
And he will kill you with a baseball bat.
Well,
I mean, probably. I don't know. I don't want to get done for slander, because you don't know what Robert De Niro would do if he catches you talking like that.
Probably nothing nice. And he'd do it while pulling a face like he's getting an eyelash out of his eye.
Yeah.
Have you ever, tried to get an eyelash out of your eye and not pull a face like Robert De Niro? It's actually really hard.
You know what? When I'm in the high-stakes situation where there's an eyelash in my eye, I don't even think about outward appearances, Andy. I'm all about I go full selfish mode. I'm Tim Curry on the... Wait, was Tim Curry on the Titanic film? Yeah! I go Tim Curry on the Titanic, disguising myself as a woman and child to get on a lifeboat. I don't care what people think.
I don't know who Tim Curry is, apparently.
What? Tim Curry is the pervert from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
He was like Jeremy Beadle, but in films and with normal hands.
Yeah, he's in Muppets Treasure Island.
Yes!
That's his best role.
They're all good roles.
Wait, he was in Titanic?
I think so.
I don't think he was.
Confirm, deny. Fact check.
I think you're thinking of Billy Zane.
Billy Zane. I think Tim Curry was as well. Fact check corner. Tim Curry Titanic. Oh, yeah, he was also in Red Alert. TimCurryFacts.com. Tim Curry was in Titanic, and he dressed up as a woman and/or child. Oh.
This might not be the famous film Titanic. I think this is the series.
No, Tim Curry was in Titanic. Which is another film about ghosts.
He's in everything nautical, even if he isn't credited.
I'm sure. Mini TVs. Have I?
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
What?
That came out in the same year.
Oh, that sounds way better than the film.
Wait, you've conflated a TV show with the movie?
This is why I think Titanic is such a long film.
Wait, everyone else went to see Titanic and you just wanted to see the TV series.
Okay.
And everyone was like, oh, you know that song from it that was really popular too? And you were like, I don't know, it's just kind of a regular TV show song.
Not in the Leonardo DiCaprio.
Very interesting. Well, I think we've all learned something today, and that's what we promised to deliver on this show.
We haven't even got into the ghosts, and I'm already a bit scared.
And
just from that.
We're very spooked by these Tim Curry phantom sightings.
Wow.
It's all Curry adjacent now. So, yeah, I don't know where to go from there. I'm a bit shaken.
I'm a little bit shaken too.
I'm very spooked.
I mean... Sorry, I was going to say, we've got an exciting chapter ahead, but before we do that, we do have an exciting chapter to recap, because it was Christmas last week.
And before we hop into it, we should just give you a quick little recap if you've managed to make it 5 minutes into this, and for some reason you're still watching, and you're thinking, who are these pricks, and why are they on my screen? Hi, I'm Sam.
Hi, I'm Andy.
That's Andy. and together we are reading a difficult book, which is called Moby Dick, which is about a horrible man who goes out and fights horrible whales. And we're making it easier to read because it's written in old people language. And we're translating it to normal people language, which explains the title, Moby Dick for Normal People.
Yes.
And so far, I should get some music on for the recap. Hang on. I'm so very well prepared here.
That's fine.
Let's have a Carmen Rider theme.
I do like describing Moby Dick as a difficult book. I think you can substitute great American novel for just difficult American novel.
It's a difficult
And it
book.
largely means the same thing.
Okay, how long have we got on this? All right, we've got 1 minute 20 to get a recap in, Andy. Do you think you can do it?
Yeah!
All right. Please begin the recap in 3, 2, 1.
So we joined our narrator Ishmael as he was getting bored on land and he had some holes in his boots. He decided to head back to sea again, but he didn't want to head to sea on any old vessel. He wanted to go whaling. The best way to do that was to make his way to Nantucket, but to get there he had to pass through New Bedford, where he stayed at the worst inn in the world and met his new BFF, Queequeg, who's a super rad dude who likes to harpoon. They became best buddies, set sail for Nantucket together, stayed at a different inn, ate some chowder, also had a terrible time, and then they've made their way to join a ship. Queequeg let Ishmael choose the ship, and he chose the one covered in the most bones and other foreboding features. That's about where we are now, where he's met an interesting cast of characters, made his way aboard, and they're just setting sail.
We're getting on with it. And you finished a bit early, so I'm just going to show you this excellent song. We've got some very good lyrics here. There's a guy in like a superhero suit riding a bike.
Whoa!
He's a cyborg. I think we should watch this.
Yeah, we should. Should we just hang on a sec? Should we just pause the Moby Dick reading and watch this?
We're just going to do Carmen Rider streams from now on.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're pivoting.
We're doing Carmen Rider for normal people.
It's the what would that even be? How do we make that more accessible?
It's already the perfect show. Okay, so so we're going to recap on the last chapter where we finally get on the boat and it's all going to happen. So, fuck me, it was a long one, wasn't it? All right. Let's begin.
Yes.
You did that recap. I will begin here. This is Chapter 2, Merry Christmas.
I think 22.
Yeah.
Wishful thinking. I think you said 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a bad omen, that one. There were a few last things to be done on the ship before we got going. Mostly this was Charity, that nice lady from earlier. She was dropping off various gifts and nice things for the crew, including a nightcap, the hat type, not a drink, for this guy called Stubbs, who was the second mate, and also her brother-in-law, and also a spare Bible for the steward, whose name and familial links I am hazy on. Then, Peleg and Bildad came out and stood all official-like. Peleg turned to the chief mate and said, "Now, Mr. Starbuck, are you sure everything's all right? Captain Ahab's all ready? Just spoke to him. Nothing more to be got from the shore, eh? Well, call all hands then. Muster 'em aft here, blast 'em!"
No need of profane words, however great the hurry, Peleg,
Said Bildad.
but away with thee, friend Starbuck, and do our bidding.
I don't know why, but Bildad always seemed to phrase things in the most ominous way possible. Talking like a pair of big important order givers, weren't they? At least for people who weren't actually going out to sea with us. Don't get me wrong, they probably know their stuff, but really, shouldn't Ahab have been the one up here, shouting at everyone? Then I thought about it, and remembered that his leg was bad, and that even if that wasn't the case, some captains just like to get drunk in their cabin. I've seen plenty of that in my time on boats, so really, it was all okay. I relaxed a little. Not for long, though, because just then, Peleg started yelling at everyone.
"Aft here, you sons of bachelors!" he cried as the sailors lingered at the mainmast. Everyone over there started running around, wild eyes. "Strike the tent there!" was the next order. I thought it was odd that there was a tent on deck to start with, so I suppose that taking it down was like a ritualistic reboatening of the vessel, because tents don't go to sea. "Man the capstan! Blood and thunder! Jump!" was the next command, and the crew did all these things.
The ship was getting underway, and anyone who knows ships knows that underway means it's time for singing. Now, Bildad was never much of a party man in my experience, and he showed that at this time by singing some sort of boring religious song and tutting and the sailors, who were en masse raucously roaring the hit shanty of the time, The Girls of Booble Alley. We didn't add that. I found myself... I found myself somewhat comforted by this bizarre scene. There was us on a ship made of bones with heads full of dark prophecy and a crew singing rude songs, but somehow this pious little paragon of virtue called Bildad, well, maybe we weren't all totally damned. If someone like that could put up with us, could have a stake in all this, then surely God wouldn't fuck us all up, would he?
By now, I'd stopped moving the capstan and told Queequeg to do the same. I can't really think and do manual labour at the same time, and I had quite some pondering to do. My leg almost exploded with some outside blunt force trauma slamming into him. I looked round and saw P-Leg's own leg dragging back across the deck towards him. He was swearing at everyone, and especially at me. That was my first kick of the voyage. "Is that the way they heave in the merchant service?" he roared. "Spring, thou sheephead! Spring and break thy backbone! Why don't ye spring, I say, all of ye, spring! Quahog, spring! Thou chap with the red whiskers, spring there! Scotch cap, spring! Thou green pants, spring! I say, all of ye, spring right out!" And so saying, he moved along the windlass here and there, using his leg very freely. Meanwhile,
Captain P-Leg must have been drinking something today, methinks.
I quipped hilariously as my leg went completely numb. Finally, the anchor was up, so were the sails, and the ship was moving. Wait, the sails should be down, shouldn't they?
Fuck it.
It was almost... It was almost enough to make you forget that today was Christmas. Nobody had gotten me a present, but instead of a little to open, the world itself lay open before me. Truly the greatest present of all. And in that world, there were whales waiting for me to hack up.
It wasn't exactly a white Christmas. No snow or anything like that, but it was bloody cold and bloody wet. And you know what that means, weather fans? That means it was icy. Massive icicles were forming on all the ropes and bones about the place, hanging down like big cold daggers ready to take your eyes out if you look at the wrong way. Look at them the wrong way? No, just look the wrong way. If you look the wrong way. For a seasoned sailor like me, it was just business as usual. Business on Christmas Day. The winds howled and the sea splashed at us, but all the time, right on the front of the ship, steering us through, was weird old Bildad, singing a merry, optimistic and religious tune, cutting right through all the weather-related atmos. Did we figure out what this song sounded like?
I think we sang it
Sweet Home Alabama?
It can be, but that's hard to sing, I think.
I think this works.
Actually, yeah, okay,
Sweet
let's...
fields beyond sweat and flood, stars
dressed in living green.
Soda Joe's looking out stood.
Rocky.
Sweet home Alabama. Alright, crack that one.
Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, well, that's what we use from now on for every song.
Every song is Sweet Home Alabama. It's a great American novel.
And it's a difficult American song.
It is. I wasn't fully sure what he was talking about, but that's art for you, isn't it? It's not about the content, it's about how you feel. and I was taking some time out from all that back-breaking labour to have a stand around and a feel. Losing myself to the music, I felt optimistic. I felt like it wouldn't be long before I was off running and rolling around in verdant fields with a happy sky and loads of lovely food within easy reach. I let myself go there in my mind, away from this damp and cold body that imprisons it, away from the ship made of bones and the guy who kept yelling at me and kicking me, and for just a moment, I was free. I was optimistic.
Eventually, it was time for Bildad and Peleg to leave. They'd gotten us out of the port, so it was time for them to head back to land. Their little sailboat pulled up, and they got ready to go. Peleg seemed alright, but there was something odd about old Bildad. He clearly didn't want to leave. It wasn't just a boat. Here is a list of things it also was to him. A ship set for a very long and perilous voyage, a ship with thousands of his dollars invested in it, a ship with an old, almost as old as he, buddy in it, parentheses, the captain, who was set to revisit all the terrors of the pitiless jaw, a ship with everything important in his life contained in it. To express this anguish, poor old Bildad lingered long, and paced the deck with anxious strides, ran down into the cabin to say goodbye a few more times, came back on deck and looked windward at the wide and endless waters. He looked towards land, he looked aloft, he looked left, he looked right, he looked everywhere, he looked nowhere. He wrapped a rope around its pin, he wrapped his own hand around Peleg's, he held up a lantern that his face couldn't be seen, and he wasn't crying. Could be seen.
He's not crying.
And he wasn't crying. He and Peleg stared at each other for a bit. He said, "Nevertheless, old friend Peleg, I can stand it. Yes, I can."
Peleg took it all a little bit more sensibly, like a philosopher who isn't afraid to cry. And with that, Peleg offered a few words of support to his old pal. "Captain Bildad, come, old shipmate, we must go," he whispered before going full yelling mode at the rest of the ship. "Back the mainyard there! Boat ahoy! Stand by to come close alongside now! Careful, careful! Come, Bildad boy, say your last. Look to ye, Starbuck! Look to ye, Mr. Stubb! Look to ye, Mr. Flask! Goodbye and good luck to all! And this day 3 years I'll have a hot supper smoking for you in old Nantucket! Hurrah and away!"
"God bless ye, and have ye in his holy keeping, men,"
murmured old Bildad, almost incoherently.
"I hope you'll have fine weather now, so that Captain Ahab may soon be moving among ye. A pleasant sun is all he needs, and ye'll have plenty of them in the tropic voyage ye go. Be careful in the hunt, ye mates. Don't stave the boats needlessly, ye harpooners. Good white cedar plank is raised full 3% within the year. Don't forget your prayers either. Mr. Starbuck, mind that cooper don't waste the spare staves. Oh, the sail needles are in the green locker. Don't whale it too much a Lord's Day, men. But don't miss a fair chance either. That's rejecting heaven's good gifts. Have an eye to the molasses terse, Mr. Stubb. It was a little leaky, I thought. If you touch at the islands, Mr. Flask, beware of fornication. Goodbye, goodbye. Don't keep that cheese too long down in the hold, Mr. Starbuck. It'll spoil. Be careful with the butter. 20 cents the pound it was, and mind ye if..."
"Come now, Captain Bildad, stop palavering away." And with that, Peleg hurried him over the side, and they both dropped into the boat.
Ship and boat diverged. The cold, damp night breeze blew between. A screaming gull flew overhead. The two hulls... I think that's Peleg again, isn't it?
Yeah, he landed.
That's him dropping over the side of the boat. The two hulls widely rolled, and we gave 3 heavy-hearted cheers and blindly plunged like fate into the lone Atlantic.
And just to celebrate this chapter, then, can I get 3 heavy-hearted cheers in the chat? And
Yeah,
me
come
and
on.
Andy will give some as well. Okay, so hip hip hooray!
Hooray!
Hip hip
Hooray!
hip hip hooray!
Hooray!
And there we go. And we're in a chapter 23, baby.
Whoa! Look at that hype in chat.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost entirely Emma, but it's still.
You're welcome.
I feel welcome.
Thanks for making me a moderator, guys.
All right, so we're on to chapter 23, The Lee Shore. Fun fact,
yeah.
Andy, drop the academia on us.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a little bit of spoilers here, but you might remember a certain guy called Bulkington.
The sexiest sailor known to man.
Yeah, who showed up at the Spouter Inn, and it described him as just a generally a hot guy, and he was being followed around by a lot of admiring sailors. And then at some point in the night, he disappears, and all the sailors go running off after him. And we just thought that was a funny episode, and Sam was like, I hope we see more of Bulkington. And I said, well, you won't see any more of Bulkington because I don't think he's in the novel. It turns out this is actually a contentious issue in academia, which is, why the fuck is Bulkington in this novel? And this is his second appearance in the entire book, and the last appearance he makes. I don't know, do you want me to theorize about what people have said Bulkington might be
Yes,
or
please,
represent?
because I've got my theory.
Okay, I mean, I think your theory is the best theory, but I'll show you what these chumps in academia think.
These Poindexters.
So there's a suggestion that in an early draft there was no Queequeg, and that this was a buddy, just a standard buddy cop movie about Ishmael and Bulkington going off on a cool and fun voyage together. Yeah, somebody's saying author self-insert. I think that has been floated as well. Maybe. Although I don't know if...
Would you put yourself in as the most handsome and sexiest sailor and everyone loved you? Did Melville get kicked out of his ship for being a bellend?
Nobody can kick you out of your own book. That's the thing. But yeah, there's a theory that like originally in the early draft they were best bros and everything. There was no Queequeg, and then Melville wrote Queequeg into it and was like, "Oh fuck, I've got this whole chapter where Bulkington's there. Oh fuck it, I'll just have him leave," and he never comes back. And I think another theory is that he was got rid of and merged with the character of Starbuck, because originally he was meant to be this guy who opposes Captain Ahab, and he's this kind of strong, heroic, generic 19th century hero who stands up to authority and does the right thing. And then Melville looked at it and was like, "Oh, that's pretty crap for a novel. I just want them to have a bad time, and then to do, and I want them to do all the wrong things. And if I have this guy here who's telling them to do the right thing, that just gets in the way." So yeah, he got rid of him and maybe gave some of his lines to Starbuck. Okay, that's their theories. But Sam, I'm on the edge of my seat for your theory.
Right, Bulkington, folks, is a ghost. Let that sink in just a second. Think about where we've come from. If you can't remember where we've come from, we first see him in a pub where the bartender sells poison, and the pub itself is made out of bones.
Oh.
We see this guy come in, and he never interacts with our hero. Our hero just looks at him and says, "Wow, he's handsome." And then all the other sailors come and say, "Bulkington! We love Bulkington! He's the best one! He is our leader!" And then they leave and disappear into the night. That's clue one. Clue number two is when our crazy Elijah fella starts going, "Hello, fellas, have you all seen them ghosts?"
Yeah.
Or at least implies ghosts. And I believe Bulkington was those ghosts. And
what if all those ghosts were chasing something? Maybe they were chasing after the ghost of Bulkington. They saw the entourage.
Maybe the ghost of Bulkington is on the ship, and maybe that's what we're about to discover in this very chapter that I haven't read. I just saw the word Bulkington.
You're pinning a lot of faith in this chapter supporting your theory.
I've got theories, and I make a video essay about it. I don't need info.
This is science. This is our null hypothesis is Bulkington is ghost.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're going to that extent, is the Spouter Inn just a figment of Ishmael's imagination? Like he saw all these bones and this crazy guy and everything? Or is that... I mean, where does the imaginary stuff stop? Is Queequeg an imaginary friend?
No, Queequeg's real. Queequeg's the realest thing in this book. You can tell from when he goes and makes racists do a backflip off a ship.
Oh yeah, and the point where he gets Ishmael hired for a job on a ship, which wouldn't happen if Ishmael were on his own. So
true. All right, cool. So without further ado, because that's the word. It's not further ado. It's do. Learning more words. Put that one next to poignant. What? We'll get on with chapter 23. Not chapter starring 23. Lee Shaw.
But yeah, if anybody's here for Lee Shaw, I'm afraid that's a
next
different
channel
book.
Along. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the erotic fan fiction.
Ah. All right.
I feel like that noise you just made would be the typed out review somebody would give for the erotic fan fiction starring Lee Shaw. It's just 5 stars. Oh!
Well, we'll write it and then we'll make sock puppet accounts and put that on the Kindle store reviews.
Excellent.
5 stars. Ah! Okay, so... Chapter 23, The Lee Shore. Some chapters back, one Bulkington was spoken of, a tall, Newlanded mariner encountered in New Bedford at the inn. When on that shivering winter's night the Pequod thrust her vindictive bows into the cold, malicious waves, who should I see standing at her helm but Bulkington? I looked with sympathetic awe and fearfulness among the man, who in midwinter just landed from a 4 years' dangerous voyage, could so unrestingly push off again for still another tempestuous term. The land seemed scorching to his feet. Wonderfullest things are ever the unmentionable. Deep memories yield no epitaphs. This 6-inch chapter is the stoneless grave of Bulkington. Let me only say that it fared with him as with the storm-tossed ship that miserably drives along the leeward land. The port would fain give succour, the port is pitiful. In the port is safety, comfort, hearthstone, supper, listing. We're doing lists.
This time.
Warm blankets, friends, all that's kind to our mortalities. But in that gale, the port, the land, is that ship's direst jeopardy. She must fly all hospitality. One touch of land, though it but graze the keel, would make her shudder through and through. With all her might she crowds all sail offshore. In so doing, fights against the very winds that fain would blow her homeward. Seeks all the lashed seas landlessness again. For refuge's sake, forlornly rushing into peril, her only friend, her bitterest foe.
Right.
I think
it does feel like we've already written it with the lashed seas landlessness.
I think there's a lot of simplification we can do here. But
yeah.
It's a very short chapter, Andy, so I think you take us home on it, and then we'll give this like a 3-line summary.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a list in the middle about things the ports are.
Yes.
Okay. Know ye now, Bulkington, glimpses do ye seem to see of that mortally intolerable truth, that all deep earnest thinking is but the intrepid effort of the soul to keep the open independence of her sea, while the wildest winds of heaven and earth conspire to cast her on the treacherous, slavish shore. But as in landlessness alone resides highest truth, shoreless, indefinite as God, so better is it to perish in that howling infinite than be ingloriously dashed upon the lee, even if that were safety. For worm-like then, oh, who would craven crawl to land, terrors of the terrible? Is all this agony so vain? Take heart, O Bulkington. Bear thee grimly, demigod. Up from the spray of thy ocean perishing, straight up leaps thy
Apotheosis.
apotheosis is opposite, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, learning time.
Uh-huh.
We're Googling apotheosis. I think it means the birth of a god. Oh, the highest point in the development of something, culmination or climax. His appearance
like
as Hamlet was the apotheosis of his
apogee.
career. Or an apex.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Right.
Oh, hang on a sec. It also says here the glorification of a subject to divine levels and the treatment of a human being as a god. So you were onto it as well.
Okay, so, what's the gist here, Andy? What's the take home? For me, Bulkington was also on this ship, and he was still as handsome as ever.
He was thinking deep thoughts and looking into the deep sea. I think
Similar to what I do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that.
Yeah, he's the cool version of Ishmael. That's why that's why he had to be cut out of this book. He does everything that Ishmael does, but with him it's cool for some reason.
Yeah, he's got a job, he's the helmsman. Ishmael's just some guy who's on the boat.
But it's also like, even in that Spouter Inn scene, he's also a stranger who just walks into the inn, but everybody loves him for some reason, and he doesn't say anything, he just stares at stuff. God, yeah, he's everything Ishmael wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's Melville doing his fantastic sleight of hand that he does throughout Moby Dick, where it's like, maybe the secret of life in this book, hint, and then never has to deliver on that, I guess, because, you know, you don't. That's the power of fiction.
Okay, remember some time back when I was talking about that cool guy called Bulkington? Very handsome, very tall, good sailor and all that? Well, guess what? He was on this ship. Couldn't believe it! When I saw him there on the wheel, looking all dashing and brave and all those other good traits. Last I saw, he was only just getting off a big ship from a big voyage with his big muscles. Think how mad for the sea you must be to just hop straight back on another long voyage like this one. He was looking thoughtfully. No, thoughtfully, you fucker. Thoughtfully out to the sea. Much in the same ways that I tend to do. Having all kinds of epiphanies and whatnot.
Nice. It's the whatnot that makes it.
Is whatnot hyphenated? Epiphanies and whatnot.
Is
I'll
it one
bet
word?
you.
Who knows?
I'll bet you, fucker. I'll bet you. Similar. Oh no, we already said it's similar to what I do. All kinds of epiphanies and whatnot. I bet you. Yeah, same way as I do, but more handsomely. Well,
Yeah,
we're implying that. We need to say that he's handsome, but not Ishmael can't contrast him against himself because that would require Ishmael to have a moment of introspection or think about himself from an outside perspective. This is a man who has spent an entire book walking into rooms and just staring at people for 10 minutes at a time and just thinking and muttering. The guy is a maniac.
I do like all this dunking on Ishmael. I do also like Val's alternate names for Bulkington.
Bulking ghoul. It's like weight training for zombies.
I mean, you've got a lot of control here, Sam. Is this the point where you decide to make it explicit that Bulkington is a ghost in your version of Moby
I'm
Dick?
going to mention that maybe he is.
We're
going to synopsis all the academia points so that people don't have to think about this, and then we'll leave a little bit of mystery.
Okay.
Okay, all kinds of swiftness and whatnots, I'll bet you. And then we need to get in something about contrasting the sea with land. Okay, so
Yeah, it's like I think the most basic way of looking at this is like thinking really hard about stuff is like being out in this kind of storm-tossed sea. When doing the easy thing would be going into land, but that would be just, giving up and destroying yourself. There's got to be an easier way of getting this contrast of sealessness.
Bulkington was clearly a guy who liked to be on boats, just like me, but perhaps even more?
Uh-huh.
See, I go nuts when I've been on land a few years. Bulkington only lasted a couple of days before he reached his equivalent of going hat slapping mad at the landed world. I know landed means something different, doesn't it?
Sealess. If we're going to have landlessness as describing the sea, we've got to have sealessness to describe the land.
100%. Okay. Sealess world. He was already back out here. Back in his element. Where he feels safe. Because it takes all sorts, really, doesn't it? For some people, the land might represent, and I'll give a list here. I will give a list. Safety. Give me things the land represents here, folks.
Okay, so safety,
comfort,
Hearthstone.
Oh, I'm going to call that warmth, because Hearthstone is a card game.
Supper. Maybe you should say card games.
I'm putting supper. Yeah, card games.
Fantasy-based card games.
Trees.
Warm blankets.
Oh, we can't have bears.
Bears? Somebody say bears.
Yeah, Val's throwing out bears like he's trying to go full scale and turn this into a bear-based story.
Yeah, lack of sharks is much closer to the mark, I think, because we want safe images. If there's one thing I think when I'm sitting around the Hearthstone playing my card games, it's that I'm quite thankful there aren't more sharks here.
Okay. Oh, no, because we can get bears in there, because we're talking about what the land might mean to some people, and now we're going to talk about what the land might mean to someone like Bulkington. And it's going to highlight all the bad things about being on land.
What, so you're going to say bears is one of the bad things?
But one of the bad things about being on land is that bears. Safety
Thinking of Lord Barrington. He's also in the Lee Shaw erotic fan fiction. I won't tell you what kind of relationship they have.
Fires and all that lot. Sort of thing that makes a person comfortable. But you know what? Oh, you know what?
Oh, man, yeah, ghosts on land can definitely go in the bad things.
Yeah. When you're a sea kind of guy, like me and Bulkington here.
I love that you're making him align himself with Bulkington's at the opposite end of the ship doing his job.
He's just going, wow.
Look at the two of us. That's like 50 feet away.
That's what I was doing when we were watching Highlander last night. Once I discovered that Christopher Lambert has really bad eyesight like me, and that's why he squints in all of his scenes.
Ah. Wait, did you actually watch all of I thought Highlander was...
so shit.
I was going to say, like, I know we talked about this before, where, like, both of us have tried watching it and never finished it. Did you actually finish it?
All the way through.
Whoa!
It's not a good film, but it's a very enjoyable film. Land. Okay. Land isn't always sunshine and daisies.
Nice. Although,
Exclamation mark.
although ironically, daisies could go
Can't
in
get
either.
those at sea.
Yeah.
On land, you've got.
Okay, we'll do chat suggestions first, and then we can do
Yep.
book ones. Do you reckon? So, some of the suggestions we've got a lack of sharks. Actually, oh wait, that was a safe one. So
No fish.
bears. Yeah, no fish.
No fish. You've got bears.
You got more ghosts. I like more ghosts. That's very judicious. The idea that there are some. That there may well be a ghost on this ship.
More ghosts than you'd usually find at sea.
Land. Oh, look this this flowchart. Land represents mortgages. Land represents landlords.
Yeah, I'm putting that in.
This is the most pirate chat I've ever seen.
Brackets never heard of a Sea Lord.
God, if this had been the dialogue in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, we might have had an enjoyable main character.
Never heard of a Sea Lord. Oh, so we got on land. Bees.
Yeah, I just read Lord Barrington. I guess he is on land.
Maybe that's why you had to go back to sea.
Yeah.
You get bees, you get dog turds, you get
Emma says-
nettles.
Emma says the king. That's pretty good.
You get nettles, you get royalty. Pricks the lot. Oh, it's good because we've had nettles and then royalty, and nettles also will give you a prickle. That's good. Alright. This is the end of the land versus sea debate. Okay, so you see, not everyone likes the land. People like me and Bulkington, who I hoped to get to know better over the course of our coming voyage. We're just a couple of sea dogs. Sea dogs. And for us, there were no bones about it.
Yes. Finally.
Except the ones are covering the ship.
You know, in
But
the
that's ivory, that doesn't count.
You know, in the game Go, there's like the idea of like the
Get the perfect surround.
the godlike move where you just place that piece and you're like, oh my god, that I think that's what you just did with this chapter. That's no bones about it.
Except the ones covering the ship, but that's ivory, that doesn't count. Okay. Okay, and then...
Do we want to let people know that we're not actually going to see Bulkington for the rest of the
Yes.
novel?
Right. Having said that, I don't think I ran into him for the entire rest of the voyage. Which is odd. Maybe he was never real. Maybe I imagined him. Maybe he was a ghost. Maybe there are some things man was just never meant to know.
I love how you get there from, yeah, he didn't talk to me for the rest of the voyage.
Maybe he was... Oh, no. Before maybe he was a ghost. Maybe he fell overboard and died. And nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. Maybe he's a ghost all along. Right.
Are you gonna roll in the line about this 6 inches or whatever being his epitaph by saying if he did fall overboard, he'd probably want this chapter to be his epitaph?
All right. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Because
If
that's
he,
maybe a big gravestone.
if he did die, while we were sailing together, then let these few inches of paper count as his gravestone or epitaph. Is epitaph too complicated to work? Spot check. Epitaph. Normal person word?
Yeah, what do you reckon? Should we say grave words? Gravestone words.
Yeah. Count as the words on his grave.
Oh, we've got split jury here. Some people say normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm unclear on an epitaph, to be honest. Alright.
Yeah.
Count as the words on his grave. And if he was dead all along, ever since I saw him in the inn, he can get fucked. Scaring,
Oh.
scaring folk like that. But still, I wish him the best. Godspeed, Bulkington. Wherever you are.
I think that's one of our best adapted chapters. I mean, taken something really deep and mysterious and made it.
Fucked it up.
Yeah.
We've put it in a sack, we've smashed it into the rocks of normal people language.
I think my main opposition to using epitaph is that I sometimes get it confused with epigraph. And that's bad because, like, epigraphs should say things like, thanks for all the help, Trevor. Or just, thanks, Trevor.
I've
and you
literally never heard the word epigraph, and I do
It's
crosswords, Andy.
It's like what you write at the front of a book to say thanks.
That's
So,
just
yeah.
the thanks page.
Which is the opposite of what you should. Yeah, it's the thank face. But yeah, I think epigraphs don't make good epitaphs and vice versa.
Ooh. Put that one on a t-shirt. That sounds snappy.
That's our metal band lyrics.
Okay, so I think that's good. I'm very happy with this chapter, Andy.
I'm very happy with this. I think this is our finest work.
And I'm just like, the Advocate is a fucking long one, and then we've got the postscript, which is even shorter than this one. So I'm not going to suggest that we skip a chapter, but I am going to suggest that we probably just have a reread of this chapter that we have just done.
Okay.
And then we probably call it.
That's fine with me.
And we'll say there's not going to be another one of these for 3 weeks. Because, Andy, where are you going?
I'm off to Canada. I'm off to lovely British Columbia.
is going to go look for some whales out in
I
whale
might-
country.
Might actually see some whales. Might see a Sasquatch. That's the two things. There's yeah, I have a list of things to do list. Things I would like to see.
TripAdvisor, Canada.
Yeah. So we'll see. If I see one of those two things, I guess I won't be disappointed. If I see Sasquatch but not whales, I'll accept it like a champ. But yeah, I would like to see one.
Bulkington's back. Question mark,
Ah,
parentheses.
nice.
Alright, so should we read through this and call it a day?
That sounds great. Let's do it.
The whole book should be dedicated to Bulkington R.I.P. Oh, buddy, you have far more deaths to be concerned about. There was a section earlier where we were talking about Ishmael's best friend, Queequeg, and the chapter ended with, and I would love him from that day until the day he would drown to death in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, that's good shit.
There's also he's really not making it that much of a mystery, is it?
No.
And the first chapter being called "Bad Things Might Happen,"
Yes.
and that whole scene in the church where he listed all the ways that whalers die.
I'm just looking for a complete read-through when we get done with this, I think this is
Oh,
good stuff.
it'd be awesome.
Alright, cool. But for now, please enjoy Chapter 23, Bulkington's Back.
Nice intonation.
Remember some... Oh,
Oh, sorry.
who's going? Let me
Well,
indent and we'll alternate that way.
Okay.
So you start while I'm indenting.
Remember some time back when I was talking about that cool guy called Bulkington? Very handsome, very tall, good sailor and all that. Well, guess what? He was on this ship. Couldn't believe it when I saw him there on the wheel, looking all dashing and brave, and all those other good traits. Last I saw, he was only just getting off a big ship from a big voyage with his big muscles. Think how mad for the sea he must be to just hop straight back on another long voyage like this one.
I'm going to take this bit and the next bit. He was looking thoughtfully out to sea, much in the same ways that I tend to do, but having all kinds of much in the same ways that I tend to do, having all kinds of epiphanies and whatnot, I'll bet you. Bulkington was clearly a guy who liked to be on boats, just like me, but perhaps even more. See, I go nuts when I've been on land a few years, but Bulkington only lasted a couple of days before he reached his equivalent of going hat-slapping mad at the sealess world. He was already back out here, back in his element, where he feels safe. Because it takes all sorts, really, doesn't it? For some people, the land might represent, and I'll give you a list here, safety, comfort, warmth, supper, card games, trees, fires, and all that lot. Sort of thing makes a person feel comfortable. But you know what? When you're a sea kind of guy, like me and Bulkington here,
Land isn't always sunshine and daisies. On land you've got no fish, bears, more ghosts than you'd usually find at sea. Land represents mortgages. Land represents landlords. Never heard of a sea lord. You get bees, you get dog turds, you get nettles, you get royalty. Pricks the lot. So you see, not everyone likes the land. People like me and Bulkington, who I hope to get to know better over the course of our coming voyage, were just a couple of sea dogs, and for us, there were no bones about it.
except the ones covering the ship, but that's ivory and that doesn't count. Having said that, I don't think I ran into him for the entire rest of the voyage, which is odd. Maybe he was never real. Maybe I imagined him. Maybe he fell overboard and died and no one noticed. Or maybe he was a ghost all along. Maybe there are just some things that man was never meant to know. If he did die while we were sailing together, then let these few inches of paper count as the words on his grave. If he was dead all along, ever since I saw him at the inn, he can get fucked, scaring folk like that. But still, I wish him the best. Godspeed, Bulkington, wherever you are.
Wow.
Godspeed, Bulkington.
What a chapter.
That was a good chapter. I liked that one.
It's an excellent one. I'm probably going to want to read it again in 3 weeks when we get back for a recap.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Val's Moby lists. That from that's like our spin-off fan podcast is called Moby Lists.
We just
like
we compile all of the lists that have been featured in Moby Dick.
all the lists that have been featured in our reinterpretation of Moby Dick for when somebody does the meta.
Oh, put them in an appendix.
Nice.
All of the lists.
So you can just skip the rest of the book and go straight
Good things
to the
about
list.
land. Bad things about land. Things on a boat. Types of boat.
I think when I was looking, you were saying like doing a read through sometime. Like I was looking at like making the episodes we've done into podcasts, and like there's a part of me which thinks if you just read through like the chapters that we've already written, and maybe we have a bit of a chat before you go into that also might be good for a podcast. It's more like a LibreVox recording, just like an audio book.
Also, what was that word? LibreVox?
LibreVox is where you get free audiobooks if you're a cheapskate like me, for books that are out of copyright.
Nice. That's
yeah,
out of the market.
I was listening to a collection of ghost stories read by a guy who sounds just like Kermit the Frog, and it was really, it's really good. Because on the one hand,
purpose?
no, I don't think so. Maybe it was. If it was, it's genius. Because like, on the one hand, it's like really creepy and horrifying, and on the other hand, it's just Kermit. So you know.
No.
Yeah.
A ghost. Anyway, I think we'll call it that. Thank you for watching, Andy. Thank you for joining.
It's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah. We'll see you in a few weeks. I'll probably get on top of some of the admin for this and start actually putting the chapters out on the Patreon, which you don't need to give us any money to read. Please don't. But yeah, see you all in a bit, I reckon.
Awesome.
Any last words, Andy? And would you like to watch that Carmen Rider video again?
My last words are, can we watch that video again, I think.
Okay, here we go. I don't think the audio is going to come through. You won't even see or hear this. You'll get this on the stream in a little bit. If you
Yeah, it's all delayed for me, but I'll try and react.
Alright, cool. Well, let's close out with that then. Let me just stop the waves. Here we go. Just going to get us demonetized.
迫る初夏地獄の軍団我らを狙う黒い影世界の平和を守るため Go! Go! Let's go! 輝くマシン
Go, go, let's go, dazzling machine.
ライダーキック仮面ライダー仮面ライダーライダーライダーライダージャンプライダーキック仮面ライダー仮面ライダーライダーライダー
仮面ライダー本郷武は改造人間である。彼を改造したショッカーは世界制覇を企む悪の秘密結社である。仮面ライダーは人間の自由のためにショッカーと戦うのだ。
He fights for humanity's freedom, just like us, Andy. And so with that, we'll say see you later. Let me put some waves back on to close that, and please enjoy my animation skills. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later, bye. There he is. The whale's going to go whoosh. He's going to jump up above the waves. Wow. Oh, no. Right, can end the stream there. Bye.